Why do some older men spark fascination, while others instantly trigger discomfort, awkwardness, even repulsion from younger women? It's not just about age, it's about energy. And here's the Stoic truth. Young women don't shudder at older men because of the years they've lived. They shudder when those men show emotional neediness, forced charm, or masked insecurity. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." When an older man hasn't done that, when he's still seeking youth through women, bum-dum. She doesn't feel desire, she feels danger. Right now, you might think it's your age keeping her distant, but it's not age. It's emotional posture. Young women instinctively sense when a man lacks grounded presence and self-respect. And when he tries too hard to be relatable or interesting, she feels it and pulls away. If you're ready to stop repelling and start commanding attention through inner calm, like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment. I lead with stillness, not performance. Number 1. Why most older men repel younger women without knowing it. There's a moment when silence speaks louder than charm. When a man enters a room, it's not the number of candles on his birthday cake that defines him, but the presence he carries, like a tall mountain amid storms. True masculinity does not beg for approval, and yet, many older men, instead of embodying this timeless presence, unknowingly smother it with behaviors rooted in insecurity and fear. In this age, where younger women are often drawn to emotional safety and maturity, the true divide isn't about years. It's about energy. A confident, grounded man radiates something rare. He doesn't chase, doesn't adapt himself to win affection, and certainly doesn't overcompensate with flashy gestures or self-deprecating humor. The problem arises when older men internalize the lie that youth equals relevance and try to mimic rather than embody strength. That's where the slow erosion of attraction begins, not in their wrinkles, but in their desperation to hide them. The Stoics, like Epictetus, remind us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In love, in presence, in style. Your reaction to aging, to rejection, to modernity is what defines your allure. The older man who becomes unattractive is not old in years, but in mindset. He laments change, resents youth, and resists evolution. Let's be clear, women aren't looking for young men in older bodies. They're looking for depth. They're drawn to the man who doesn't explain himself loudly, but whose silence feels like gravity. He doesn't play games. He writes his own rules. He doesn't cling. He chooses. This video is not a guide to win younger women. It's a path back to your core. A reminder that dignity is not outdated, and strength, when silent, speaks louder than performance. Because in the end, women don't remember the man who tried to impress them. They remember the one who made them feel seen, safe, and effortlessly intrigued. Comment below. I reclaim my presence with calm power. Number 2. The subtle divide between attractive and unattractive older men. Not all older men repel. Some captivate without saying a word. The difference, it's not money, looks, or even physical health. It's self-possession. Attractive older men are rooted. They carry decades of experience not as baggage, but as depth. They don't try to merge into the rhythm of the younger generation. They create their own tempo. They don't chase trends. They embody timeless value. In contrast, unattractive older men try too hard. They wear slang like a poorly fitted jacket. They adopt the humor, clothes, or lifestyle of youth, thinking it will bridge the gap. But imitation only reveals insecurity. The more a man adjusts himself to be liked, the more invisible he becomes. Women don't fall for performance. They feel energy. And when that energy says, "I'm not enough as I am," it crushes desire. Here's the paradox. Older men who don't try to be young often appear more compelling. Why? Because self-acceptance is magnetic. The man who doesn't flinch at his age, who speaks with grounded calm, and who stands firm in his values. He awakens something primal in women. He represents safety without control, wisdom without ego, and masculinity without performance. Philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the Stoic frame. Attractive older men don't argue their worth. They embody it. They don't explain why they're desirable. They let their presence reveal it. The truth is, younger women aren't looking for youth. They're looking for leadership, and not the loud, controlling kind, but the subtle strength of a man who listens more than he talks, who walks his path with quiet intensity, and who treats attention as a privilege, not a right. So ask yourself, not how do I look younger, but how do I look deeper? Because depth, when worn with quiet confidence, never goes out of style. Comment below, I lead with presence, not performance. Number 3, Habit 1, Complaining about modern women. Imagine entering a room and hearing someone lament. Women today aren't like they used to be. It might seem harmless, just a man expressing frustration, but to the discerning ear, especially that of a younger woman, it screams of bitterness, resistance to growth, and emotional stagnation. Often dressed up as wisdom, this habit is nothing more than disguised resentment. When older men complain about feminism, social media, or the loss of traditional women, they reveal their fear of no longer being relevant in a world that's evolving. It's not that women have changed for the worse. It's that the rules of connection have shifted, and clinging to the past only shows that you're unprepared for the present. The Stoic response to change is not resistance, it's adaptation. As Epictetus taught, we don't control events, but we do control our responses. Complaining is a form of mental weakness. It suggests that the world owes you the conditions you're comfortable with. But attraction doesn't bloom from comfort zones. It grows from presence, from a man who thrives in any environment because he trusts himself. Women today, especially those younger, are not looking for someone to explain what's wrong with their generation. They're looking for someone who sees them, understands the culture they navigate, and doesn't judge them for it. They want someone who gets it, not someone who resents it. So, if you're tempted to critique dating apps, modern fashion, or social roles, pause. Instead of saying, "Women don't appreciate men like me anymore," say, "How can I grow into a man who sees through the noise and stands strong in clarity?" Because clarity, not criticism, is the sexiest trait a man can carry into a room. Comment below, I grow with change, not against it. Number 4, Habit 2, Flexing money from a place of insecurity. He steps out of a luxury car, wearing designer clothes, orders the most expensive wine, and within minutes, the conversation shifts to his income, his house, or his investment portfolio. It looks powerful on the surface, but if you listen closely, it often sounds like a man begging to be seen. There's a fine line between expressing success and using it to compensate for a lack of self-worth. When older men lead with wealth, thinking it will buy attention or affection, they misunderstand what truly captivates a woman, especially a younger one who seeks depth. Real attraction isn't built on the digits in your bank account. It's built on your presence, your inner calm, and how you carry your truth without needing applause. Stoicism reminds us, external things, money, status, possessions, are indifferent. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. If you use money to mask insecurity, you surrender your power. You become defined by things that can be taken away. But when you show up with quiet confidence, when your success is something she notices instead of something you announce, she becomes curious, intrigued, drawn to the energy that doesn't need to explain itself. It's not that money is unattractive. It's that desperation is. A man who flexes his wealth is telling the world, this is all I believe makes me worthy. And that's the real turn-off. Instead, Invest in your values. Dress well because you respect yourself. Live well because you enjoy peace. Not trying to prove your worth. Let her see your character's richness before your bank account's richness. That's what leaves a lasting impression. Comment below, I am my value, not what I own. Number 5. Habit 3. Trying to act young instead of owning your age. There's a kind of irony that reveals itself when a man wears backward caps, tight jeans meant for someone half his age, or uses slang that doesn't quite fit. He believes he's blending in, staying relevant, but in the eyes of others, especially women, he's becoming a caricature of insecurity. Trying to appear young doesn't make you seem younger. It makes you seem unsure of who you are. The men who carry timeless appeal are not those who chase youth, but those who embody depth. Sean Connery in his 60s never needed to wear sneakers designed for teens. He wore tailored suits, spoke with conviction, and moved with presence. Why? Because he knew that true magnetism has nothing to do with age, and everything to do with self-possession. Stoic philosophy embraces amor fati, the love of fate. This means accepting each phase of life, not resisting it. When you try to rewind the clock, you're saying, who I am now isn't enough. But when you embrace your age, your scars, your wisdom, you stand in a league of your own. Women sense that, not the words, but the vibration of a man who doesn't flinch at a wrinkle, who isn't trying to fit into a world that was never his to chase. Younger women aren't looking for older men to become younger. They seek stability, insight, and a calm leadership energy that younger men often lack. By acting young, you give up your greatest advantage, your experience. The solution: stop mimicking and start mentoring. Let your confidence be silent but undeniable. Let your age speak not of decline, but of refinement. When you walk into a room, don't try to match its tempo. Set your own. That's what makes people turn and look twice. Now, speak out. I lead with wisdom, not imitation. Number 6. Habit 4. Acting like you know everything. There's a fine line between wisdom and arrogance, and too many older men cross it without realizing. You might believe you're just sharing knowledge, but what she hears is, let me correct you, let me teach you, let me dominate this conversation. When a man constantly interjects to correct a woman, lectures instead of listens, or turns every exchange into a seminar, he unintentionally undermines her sense of value, and in doing so, he chips away at his own attractiveness. No woman wants to feel like a student looking for a partner. True Stoicism isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the humility to know that every person, no matter their age, has something to teach you. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." That applies to conversations. 2. Let go of the need to always be right. Receive her perspective without immediately comparing it to yours. If you're constantly playing the teacher, you never become her equal. You become a mirror of control, not connection. And connection, the kind that leads to intimacy, is forged in curiosity, not in superiority. The fix start with presence, not precision. Ask questions not to impress, but to understand. That's an interesting take. How did you come to that perspective is far more powerful than actually. That's not how it works. And when you do speak, let it come from a place of invitation, not instruction. Because in the end, she's not remembering your facts. She's remembering how you made her feel. If you made her feel seen, respected, and heard, you've already won her attention and possibly her heart. Comment below, I listen to connect, not to correct. Number 7. Habit 5. Talking down to her like a child. Nothing kills chemistry faster than condescension disguised as charm. It's the patronizing tone, the smug chuckle, the "oh, that's cute" when she's excited about something she discovered. Many older men don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're being endearing, but to her, it feels like being minimized, not admired. This habit often stems from a subconscious superiority complex. A man who believes age equals wisdom assumes her youthful curiosity is naivety. But women don't want to be mentored. They want to be mirrored. They want someone who reflects their worth, not someone who questions it. From a Stoic point of view, this is where the virtue of temperance must shine. Speak not to dominate, but to connect. Marcus Aurelius taught us to approach others with dignity, never assuming we are better simply because we are older. The man who talks down only reveals his insecurity disguised as authority. If a woman shares a new book or an insight she's exploring, don't respond with, "That's sweet. I read that 20 years ago." Instead, try, "That book meant a lot to me too. What stood out to you the most?" You've just shifted from condescension to collaboration. This subtle shift transforms the dynamic. She doesn't feel like she's sitting in your classroom. She feels like she's dancing in your presence. Respect builds resonance. And when she feels respected, she naturally leans in, opens up, and sees you as someone safe, not someone superior. Because true power doesn't need to talk down. It listens, lifts, and lets her shine in her own light. Comment below, "I speak with respect, not superiority." Number 8. Habit 6. Dressing like you've given up. Before you say, "Looks don't matter," hear this: how you dress isn't about vanity. It's about vitality. When a man dresses like he's stopped caring, baggy jeans, old sneakers, wrinkled shirts, he sends a silent message. I've stopped trying, not just with fashion, but with life itself. Women don't expect a man to dress like a runway model, but they do notice the man who respects himself enough to be intentional. Clothes speak. They tell the world whether you value your body, your presence, your moment. And when your appearance says, "I gave up a long time ago," it overshadows even the most interesting personality. In Stoic terms, this is about self-discipline. Epictetus didn't tell us to be flashy. He told us to be mindful of our presentation because it reflects our inner order. A neat, thoughtful style isn't superficial. It symbolizes self-respect. Take inspiration from men like George Clooney or Idris Elba. Their style isn't youthful. It's timeless, clean cuts, neutral tones, clothes that fit, not because they need to impress, but because they own who they are. You don't need luxury. You need coherence. A look that says, "I know who I am, and I haven't surrendered to the slow erosion of care." A well-chosen outfit is like armor for presence. It doesn't scream for attention. It commands quiet respect. Dress not to impress her. Dress to express you haven't given up on yourself, because when you do, she sees not the fabric, but the fire beneath it. Now, speak out. I present myself with pride and purpose. Number 9. Habit 7. Being overly possessive and controlling. What begins as protectiveness can quickly become a prison. Many older men fall into the trap of trying to control the woman they're attracted to, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear that freedom will lead to abandonment. They ask too many questions, monitor who she texts, demand instant replies. They confuse love with ownership. And the more they grip, the more she slips through. This behavior doesn't communicate strength. It radiates insecurity. It doesn't make her feel special. It makes her feel watched. And no woman, regardless of age, wants to feel like she's being managed. A Stoic man, by contrast, understands that love without freedom is not love. It's captivity. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the best revenge is not to be like that. In this case, not to become the anxious version of yourself who clings rather than leads. You are not made to cage a woman. You're made to invite her into a space she chooses to stay in. The man who holds himself with quiet self-worth doesn't need to demand loyalty. His presence is enough. He doesn't beg for constant updates because his life is already full of purpose, peace, and direction. The solution is trust, not blind trust, but chosen trust. It means building a life so magnetic that she chooses you again and again, not out of guilt or pressure, but because your presence feels like freedom. A man who trusts himself does not fear the space between messages. He uses it to deepen himself, not to question her. Let her go and watch her return not out of obligation, but admiration. Comment below, I give freedom because I trust my value. Turning awareness into presence. What separates an attractive older man from an unattractive one isn't youth, money, or charm. It's presence. It's how he carries himself, not as someone chasing validation, but as someone deeply rooted in who he is. These 7 habits, complaining about modern women, insecure bragging, acting too young, over-explaining, talking down, neglecting appearance, and controlling behavior, are not just unattractive. They're signs of a man out of alignment with his own power. The Stoic man doesn't perform. He doesn't compete with younger versions of himself. He evolves. He allows time to deepen his character, not diminish his worth. He sees aging not as a decline, but as an unfolding, a mastery of emotional discipline, of calm certainty, of grounded masculinity. And that's the paradox most men miss. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. The less you chase youth, the more women feel drawn to your maturity. The more you live with purpose, the more your presence becomes a lighthouse, one she cannot ignore. So if you want to be unforgettable in the eyes of a younger woman, don't ask how to win her attention. Ask how to become the kind of man whose presence speaks in silence, a man whose confidence is quiet, whose gaze is steady, whose value is not marketed, but felt. Remember, a lion doesn't roar to prove he's the king. He just is. Let go of the need to prove and start becoming. Refine yourself, stand taller, speak less, mean more, and let your presence be the only explanation she ever needs. Comment below, my presence speaks louder than performance. You came here wondering why younger women shut down when you show interest. Now you know. It's not about what you say, it's about what your energy says. If she senses you're seeking approval, trying to relive your youth, or outsourcing your confidence to her reaction, she doesn't see a leader, she sees a man who hasn't yet mastered himself. But when you embody Stoic presence, calm instead of clever, detached instead of desperate, observant instead of overpowering, you become rare, and that rarity speaks louder than charm. You don't need to be younger. You need to be centered, because a grounded man is ageless, and women of all ages feel it. If you're ready to replace discomfort with dignity and led from within, like this video, subscribe, and comment. I age with power, not with performance. Stay grounded, stay sovereign, because a man in command of himself never has to force connection. It naturally finds him.